You know, when you hear the words contract law, it sounds, well, kind of complicated, right? A little intimidating? But what if I told you it's really just like baking a cake? Seriously. A good, solid, legally binding contract needs a clear recipe and the right ingredients, just like a perfect cake. When you get it right, you've created something reliable, something strong, something everyone can count on.
Oh, come on, we've all done it. That little box you check without a second thought, yep, you're making a contract. You see, these things are everywhere. They're the invisible architecture of our daily lives, from buying your morning coffee to downloading a new app. So, what's the magic that turns a simple promise into something the law will actually back up? Well, let's fire up the oven and find out.
So, first things first. What is this finished cake we're actually trying to bake? Well, a contract is that final product. It's the beautiful, successful result of following a very specific legal recipe. And right there in the definition is the absolute key. A contract is not just any old agreement. It's an agreement that has the full muscle of the legal system behind it. See that last part? Which the law will enforce? That's everything. It's the difference between saying to a friend, yeah, I'll help you move this weekend, and actually signing a lease on an apartment. One is a nice promise, the other has real-world consequences.
Okay, so how do we get started? Well, every recipe begins with a couple of basic steps to create the base, the batter. This is how we get from a bunch of separate ideas to one combined agreement.
At its heart, the formula is incredibly simple. You need an offer and you need an acceptance. That's it. One person has to say, hey, I'll sell you this car for 10 grand, and the other person has to say, you've got a deal, I accept. Boom. You mix those two things together, the offer and the acceptance, and you get an agreement. It's like mixing your flour and eggs. You've definitely started something, but it's not a cake yet, not even close.
And this is so important to understand. Just because you have an agreement doesn't mean you have a contract. That bowl of batter sitting on your counter is not a cake. It's missing the most critical step, the process that transforms it from a sticky mass into something solid and real.
And there it is, the whole recipe. A contract is an agreement plus this magic word, enforceability. Think of enforceability as the heat in the oven. It's a whole collection of other legal ingredients that takes your raw agreement and bakes it into something the law will recognize and protect. Without that heat, all you've got is a bowl of uncooked batter, a promise that could fall apart at any moment.
All right, so let's throw open the legal pantry and take a look at these essential ingredients for enforceability. Just like you can't bake a decent cake without things like sugar and butter, you just can't form a real contract without these key legal elements.
Now, if you crack open a law textbook, you're going to see this huge, intimidating list of like 10 different things. It's a lot. So to make it way easier, we've grouped them into 3 simple categories. First, who's doing the baking? Second, what are we baking? And third, what are the rules of the kitchen? First up, the bakers. The people making the deal have to be competent. That basically means they're of legal age and are of sound mind. They know what they're doing. And just as crucial, they have to give free and genuine consent. You can't be forced, tricked, or seriously pressured into it. Both parties have to be there because they want to be. Next, let's talk about the deal itself. The recipe has to have a lawful object, which is a fancy way of saying you can't make a contract to do something illegal. Duh, right? It also needs certainty of meaning. So the terms have to be clear, not super vague. And then there's the big one. It needs lawful consideration. So what on earth is consideration? It's the classic quid pro quo, something for something. Each person in the deal has to give something of value or give up something of value. It's the price being paid for the promise. And here's a wild little detail. The law doesn't really care if it's a fair price. The value doesn't have to be equal, it just has to exist. This is the sugar in our recipe. It's what makes the deal sweet and worthwhile for everybody involved.
And finally, we've got the basic rules of the kitchen, the legal framework. The people involved must actually intend for this to be a serious, legally binding deal, not just a casual chat. The deal also has to be possible to perform. You can't have a contract where I promise to flap my arms and fly you to Mars. And lastly, the type of agreement can't be something the law has already said is automatically invalid.
So, we know how to make the perfect cake, but what happens when things go wrong? You use salt instead of sugar, or you completely forget to add the flour. Well, in the world of law, just like in baking, you get what I call kitchen disasters, contracts that are just fundamentally broken. This breaks down the 3 main types of failures. First, you've got a void contract.
This thing was never a real contract to begin with. It's like a cake with no flour. It was doomed from the start and was never going to work. Then you have a voidable contract. This is like a lopsided cake. It's valid for now, but one of the parties has the choice to cancel it, maybe because they were misled or pressured. And finally, you have an illegal contract. This one's simple. It's a poisoned cake. The whole point of it is forbidden by law and no court will ever touch it.
Okay, so we've been through the whole recipe, all the ingredients, and even the spectacular kitchen fails. But why does any of this actually matter to you? Let's bring this whole thing out of the abstract legal kitchen and into the real world.
Here's the bottom line. This recipe, this whole system, is the foundation of trust in our society. Contracts are what allow us to rely on the promises other people make. Think about it. Whether you're an employee, a customer, or a business owner, this legal framework is what gives us the confidence and the predictability to deal with each other every single day. Without it, things would be chaos.
And really, that's the big takeaway here. Now you know the basic recipe. You need an offer, an acceptance, and all those essential ingredients that create enforceability. With that knowledge, you can look at the world a bit differently. So the next time you make a deal or shake on something or click I agree, just take a second and ask yourself, have we actually baked a cake here? Is this just a casual promise or is it a contract?